There's a pretty important question that God wants us to be really good at asking ourselves during these days of waiting and uncertainty, and really pretty much during any day of our lives. And that question comes from that section where God is promising to provide manna for the Israelites every morning. That's in Exodus chapter 16. We looked at it yesterday, but there's something really interesting God says after he says he's going to provide manna. He's going to provide it 6 days a week. So 6 days a week, the Israelites are going to go out of their tents and they're just going to be able to pick up bread right off the ground. But on the seventh day, he wasn't going to provide any. And so they weren't supposed to go and pick any up. So on day 6, they were supposed to pick up twice as much so that they wouldn't have to pick up anything on the seventh day. And so every morning as the Israelites got up, they were supposed to kind of, in a sense, ask themselves, is this the day that God gives me the right to go pick up manna? And 6 days out of the week, the answer was yes. And so if they did that, the manna was there and they had enough food for their families. But we're told that some went out on the seventh day and they tried to pick it up. They thought, well, you know what, God doesn't give me the right to go out and pick up manna today, but I'm going to do it anyway. And it says that when they did, their manna, it was full of maggots. Kind of nasty. But it wasn't good. But God did this to teach them a lesson, that we're far better off when we let God lead our way through each day. The important question that God wants us to ask ourselves on a regular basis is, well, does God give me the right? Does God give me the right to do this? And that's good guidance for us too, no matter what day it is, but certainly now during these days. You know, there are a lot of things that God doesn't speak definitively on. He doesn't say definitively, typically. You know, it's like, well, you should take this job or you should take that job. There's no Bible passage that says, thou shalt, on any of those kind of things. But there are passages that guide our emotions and our attitudes. You know, does God give me the right to be impatient with the people in my house? Well, no, there's no Bible passage where God says, you have the right to be impatient, especially if they were kind of really nasty to you today. But God does give me the right to be patient with them and kind. That's what love is. So that's what we should do. Does God give you the right to hold a grudge against someone? There's no passage that says that God gives you the right to do that. There are plenty of passages where God gives you the right to forgive, to put that into God's hands and let him deal with it. You know, and in this way, this is the way that we know that God is leading us through life. He gives us guidance in his word because he knows the better way. He knows the better way. And when we take a different way, a way that's opposite of what God is telling us to do, he lets us suffer the consequences for it. Maybe it's not maggots, but maybe it's something that feels just as bad. But he gives us guidance in his word so that God is leading us through life. And why do we want God to lead us through life? The reason God had them do that, the reason he tested them in a sense, was because he was training them. He was training them to rely on God's promises, on God's love, on God's ability to provide for them. Or to say it another way, relating it to our lives, is what we're going through today. He doesn't want your confidence every day to be based on, did I make the right decisions? Did I do the right thing with my kids? Am I homeschooling them well enough? Am I staying home enough? Are other people in government positions, are they making the right decisions? You know, does that need to be the basis for my confidence? The decisions that I make or the people around me make? He wants us to find rest in his ability to provide for us. God told the Israelites he was doing that because he wanted to remind them that he's the one who saved them from Egypt. He did. He's the God who saves. He wants to take the pressure off of your shoulders of thinking, well, only if you figure it out today, only if you make all the right decisions, only if you turn all the right corners, and then you'll be okay. No, God gives you the right to rest well tonight because he takes full responsibility for making the right decisions, for providing, for loving, for guiding in exactly the right ways. So rest well tonight, my friends. God is guiding you every step of the way.